So, yeah, you will have seen much of this in the mid-PI review if you were around for that. But I'll take a bit more time today to go into a bit more detail than perhaps we have done on the mid-PI review. So, on-premises deployments. This workstream is part of our Make Adoption Easier pillar. Again, very similar in our high-level objectives. We want to lower and remove barriers to people using Moduloop and being part of Moduloop schemes, in the hopes that that will lead to better financial inclusion outcomes for people in regions where Moduloop schemes operate. So David Fry has also been contributing quite strongly to this workstream over the last PI, along with a couple of other folks. What are we trying to do specifically in this workstream? Well, we're trying to align the off-the-shelf Moduloop software and the documentation and tools and processes and patterns that we support with our open source ecosystem. I'm trying to match that with the needs of our adopters, people who actually want to make Moduloop schemes, use Moduloop software, not just experiment with it, play with it, test it, develop it, or enhance it, but people who actually want to run payment schemes and make businesses out of Moduloop, to switch payments in real world situations. Most of those folks who are already running projects to do this with Moduloop in various stages of development. They are telling us that they want to run Moduloop in their own data centers on premise. There are a number of reasons behind that. The strongest reasons we think we've heard are around regulation. Regulators in the territories where we're trying to build Moduloop aren't super comfortable with payments related data being in the cloud. And at least the hub operators, the scheme operators who speak to us quite regularly are concerned about that. They have to be regulatory compliant. Those regulations are complex, and though even in some situations where some of our adopters are absolutely fine with cloud, quite a number have this strong requirement to run Moduloop and keep all of the data that passes through the payments hub in their own data centers under lock and key. A kind of secondary objective of this workstream is to help those people. So to provide a focus point within the Moduloop community for adopters and their technical partners to come and ask questions and resolve problems. So we're trying to be a focus point for people using Moduloop in those on-premise environments as well, to help them out and guide them on what we think best practice is. We've made some pretty good progress in this last PI. We do actually have capability right now to deploy Moduloop on-prem. It's been done a few times into production-like environments. We have I'm going to call it the beginnings of self-serve documentation, because we're still iterating that documentation. It is up to a point where you can, in theory, if you have enough background knowledge and understanding of Moduloop, and you've done similar things in the past, you have the right skill set, you can actually do a complete self-serve deployment and installation of Moduloop into production quality environment. And as long as you have the right support for your own local regulation and compliance, then you're actually already capable of deploying Moduloop into on-prem and running it in production. However, we still have work to do. Some aspects of what we think is a best practice workflow for managing Moduloop deployment following what's known as a Git ops pattern. We still have some work to do to remove some of the last remaining cloud dependencies from that tool chain. However, we have been hampered in this last PI over the last 3 or 4 months just by lack of resource. Again, finding people with enough time to donate is hard. So again, at the end of this session, I'm going to be making a big shout out to the community to come and help. Again, this is a very fertile area for people around the ModuLoop ecosystem, people helping businesses deploy, operate, and make viable, successful businesses out of running ModuLoop schemes. That's part of why we're here. This is a fertile area, so there's lots of good reasons for you to come and get involved in this. So why did we need this workstream? Why wasn't ModuLoop capable of being deployed on-prem right from day one? Well, it really was. However, most of the early work on ModuLoop was done in the cloud, because when you're developing a new software product, especially a complex distributed system that has a lot of requirement for stability and financial correctness. In a distributed team around the world, it makes more sense to do that in cloud, because cloud resources easy to throw away. Cloud certainly isn't cheap, but it's disposable. So you can spin up a development instance of your software under development in the cloud, work on it for a few hours, do some tests, and then take it down and go back to working on your laptop. So most of the early development, certainly for the first few years of ModuLoop's existence, was done in cloud. And ModuLoop follows cloud native patterns. So even though the term cloud native means that it's easy to deploy and run your software in the cloud, those patterns actually have an awful lot of relevance to on-premise and own data center deployments. Increasingly, businesses are realizing that having data centers that look like cloud, what's become known as private cloud, is actually quite a sensible way of managing your infrastructure. So a lot of the early design thinking in ModuLoop did cover both eventualities. It wasn't only ever intended to be running cloud. So the abstraction layers that are in place, Kubernetes, for example, and Docker, all of those early architectural decisions, which are still in place and will still carry on for the foreseeable future in ModuLoop, they enable that multiple targeting of deployment scenarios, deployment environments. So cloud or on-premise or both, or hybrid, what's become known as hybrid. And part of the capability that we're developing with our infrastructure as code will enable us to do that, that hybrid scenario as well. So the IAC code base has been iterated quite significantly over the last PI. We still have a couple of outstanding tasks. We have one remaining component, which we're trying to eliminate. But in the back of our minds always is the need that these ModuLoop deployments that happen on premise, or even in the cloud, they need to facilitate that carrier grade level of security, reliability, and resilience. Let's not forget that ModuLoop is intended to be important financial infrastructure, national financial infrastructure. So in our deployment architectures, our tooling, even though it's open source and off the shelf, it has to be carrier grade in those deployments. So all of our work in this work stream is focused on making sure that you can deploy ModuLoop on premise with the same kind of levels of security and reliability and resilience that you would get from any of the big cloud providers. We have to do that with no license fee technology, so all our tools have to be open source, no license fee technology. So where have we got so far? Well, as I said, we have that self-serve installation documentation produced, but it is being iterated actively with user feedback, real user feedback from people actually running through these installation processes themselves. The core infrastructure as code is constantly being improved, and there are some significant changes that happened over this PI, and that will be ongoing. We have recently brought some more resource into this work stream, some more engineering resource. So the work to remove that last cloud dependency has ramped up, and we're expecting that to happen imminently, to a point where we'll have that completely air-gapped on-premise Moduleap deployment with the full GitOps support with the control center and multiple Moduleap instances being managed from that control center. We're expecting that to happen in the early part of PI 25. So as I said, one of the focus areas for the workstream was to provide a point of contact, a focus point for people using Moduleap on-premise. So the resources we have are continuing to support those adopters who are in various stages of their projects at the moment. Plus, there's a considerable pipeline of people lining up to use this technology. So we're running as fast as we can and providing as much support as we're able. But we could always use more help. So all that remains for me to say is thank you to everybody that's contributed so far, and please come and join the party. You don't necessarily have to have a world of experience or knowledge, just a willingness to participate and help out is all you need to come and join the party here and make a difference to our mission. We have a Slack channel on premises deployment, and we have, when there's sufficient work, we have regular weekly meetings as well. And we keep a regular cadence, meeting notes, etc. So please reach out if you're able to dedicate some time and effort. Again, this is a fertile area if you're thinking of ways to get involved in Moduleap in a sustainable way. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that there's business opportunities in helping deployments move along and helping adopters bring your skills and knowledge to the ecosystem and help make Moduleap a success. One final statement of thanks to everybody that's participated so far. All the time and effort in this workstream so far has been donated gratis by participants in the community. It's very welcome. We've moved a considerable way. Over the past 2 PIs, in fact, to develop this capability, and I'm very pleased with where we are now. Having that extra resource come on board in the last couple of weeks has accelerated us. So I'm super enthusiastic that within the next couple of weeks we'll be able to do that first fully air-gapped deployment, and we'll be making an announcement when we've done that, and we'll share the details as soon as possible.